Welcome to Radio 64. Welcome to Radio 64 Video Game Music Remix Radio. I'm your host, Eric Mickles, also known online as duskvstweak. Radio 64 is part of the Radio Meanwhile network. You can visit radiomeanwhile.com for more information about this and other great podcasts. Share your thoughts on this episode and request music by following the show on Facebook or Twitter at Radio64Pod. And please rate, subscribe, and share this show on Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud, and YouTube. or wherever you get your podcasts. That rockin' piece we opened the show with is called Full Paragon by Psycho Crusher from ocremix.org from the game Mass Effect. That's the first Mass Effect, the game that I think has a stronger soundtrack than the others. I like the music in Mass Effect 2 and 3, but I think Mass Effect 1 has more of a unique soundtrack, something that really stands out, whereas Mass Effect 2 gets a bit more cinematic in its scope and its style and sounds a bit more traditional in its composition. I think the first Mass Effect had a really cool retro sci-fi vibe, had a real 80s vibe about it, and I really liked it. Psycho Crusher there just tears it up, though. I love that. There's just some fantastic heavy guitar work going on there, and he takes that Uncharted Worlds theme from Mass Effect and just rips it apart. I love it. So again, that's Full Paragon by Psycho Crusher from ocremix.org from the game Mass Effect. You know, actually, I was saying that about how Mass Effect 2 and 3 have good soundtracks, but I'm only in the middle of Mass Effect 3. Maybe not even the middle. Maybe the first 1/3 of it. I gotta get back to it. Mainly so I could be done with the Mass Effect series, but also because I hate leaving games in the middle, but I was playing it. It just wasn't hooking me. Not like the story of the first two games. Those two really got me invested and had me going through them at a pretty good speed. But I don't know. I've yet to find any momentum with Mass Effect 3. So maybe things will turn around. I don't know. Has a odd reputation, that third game, doesn't it? One game I've been spending a lot of time with lately is Monster Hunter World. I've been putting a lot of time into Monster Hunter World. I got it as a gift. Maybe last year, 2 years ago. I didn't put a lot of time into it. I actually only played it for 2 days, maybe 6 hours total. And I thought it was cool. I liked what I saw, but nothing came of it. And then just recently, and it's probably because I'm locked down at the moment, I got back into Monster Hunter World, and I've been just hooked to it. It's just been what I've been wanting to do in my downtime. Just really give Monster Hunter World my attention. The monsters, I mean, they're so pretty. I hate hunting them, but also I want really nice armor, so I do it anyways. This doesn't come from Monster Hunter World, actually. It comes from Monster Hunter Tri, but I really wanted to include a track from the Monster Hunter series. This comes from the Village of the Sea, Moga, from Monster Hunter Tri, game back on the Nintendo Wii. Sounds a little weird. It has a kind of a vacation-y vibe, though a bit of a buzzing sound with some of its instrumentation. It's called Bossa de Moga, and it comes from the album Hometown Heroes, which is town themes arranged, which is a really lovely album that Overclocked Remix put together, just remixing different town themes throughout different games, which pretty much means JRPGs, because they have some of the best town music. But considering how relaxing a lot of those JRPGs towns are, it's such a smart focus for an album. And the album is great. It's not too long. It's only about 12 tracks, but it's really just nice, peaceful music. So if you're looking for something to listen to and relax to, I definitely suggest listening to Hometown Heroes, Town Themes Arranged from Overclocked Remix. You can find that at hometown.ocremix.org. All right, so this track is Bossa de Moga by Jamphibious from OC Remix's album Hometown Heroes from the game Monster Hunter Tri. That was Bossa de Moga by Jamphibious from OC Remix's album Hometown Heroes from the game Monster Hunter Tri. I didn't have a Nintendo Wii, so I would have never had any time for this, though I don't think I ever was. It was only when Monster Hunter World came out that I actually decided to go in. Like a lot of people. I mean, I knew of Monster Hunter, the series, but I just didn't really know what it was. But then Monster Hunter World just looks so gorgeous, and it is. I mean, gosh, I just dealt with an electric unicorn that murdered me, and I hate it more than anything, but it's so pretty. Okay, this is a metal piece that we're about to play, a really dark metal piece that has kind of a dark fantasy vibe about it, something you might hear fantasy more like Conan the Barbarian instead of Lord of the Rings. This is, I mean, there's just some nasty guitar in here. It sounds something really evil about this track. It comes from the game Faxanadu, which is that it's an NES game from 1997. I had to look up a long play of it because I have never heard of Faxanadu on the NES, but watching it, it's kind of it reminds me a lot of the side-scrolling bits from Zelda 2, a little bit of Castlevania. It's definitely going for that kind of, I mean, I saw Minotaurs and everything. The music itself kind of got on my nerves, so I'm impressed by what this track is doing because it makes it much more listenable, something I could put on my iPod and hear, whereas the original soundtrack, it was abrasive, I would think. So this is Faxanadoom. Oh, I love that title. This is Faxanadoom by The Bitter Roost from ocremix.org from the game Faxanadu. Faxanadoom by The Bitter Roost from ocremix.org from the game Faxanadu. I said Faxanadu a lot. I said a lot like Xanadu without actually talking about the movie Xanadu. Fun fact, when I worked at a library, the DVDs weren't alphabetized, so One of the projects I did was alphabetize all their movies. They didn't have a lot of movies in the X's, so I bought Xanadu just to fill it out, and it checked out a lot. People really were excited to see Xanadu. Up next is a fantastic jazz piece, remixing Chrono Trigger. You got the OC Jazz Collective here, also working with Wiesty. It comes from Chrono Trigger, as I said. It's remixing the Mega's Confronted theme, but it just sounds like the most relaxing, chill jazz piece you can hear, and it's coming from the Chronology album, which is a jazz tribute to Chrono Trigger, which is exactly that. It's just some fantastic jazz work remixing the Chrono Trigger album. It's really special. Definitely check that out if you want to hear more jazz music coming from your video game remixes. A lot of great tracks on there, real easy listening. This one has that big band sound down. It's got that live feel. If you were at a jazz club or swing dancing and this track came on, it would just fit perfectly. And Chrono Trigger, it's so smart. If you're gonna, I know people who are like, oh, I can't listen to jazz, it's all random. But if you're gonna try to win somebody over with jazz, Chrono Trigger is such a great place to start, because the soundtrack is just wonderful all the way through. So everything you're doing from that is coming from a point of strength. This is Neuga, Ziena, Zieber, Zom by Wiesty and the OC Jazz Collective from ocremix.org from the game Chrono Trigger. was Neuga, Ziena, Zieber, Zom by Wiesty and the OC Jazz Collective from ocremix.org from the game Chrono Trigger. Okay, we're doing something a little different here. I have 3 tracks because they're part of a trilogy of songs that Nick Singer put together starting in 2007, and he did the last piece in 2009. So this comes from the game Marathon, which was Bungie's games from 1994, that before the Halo series. But I believe, gosh, you know what, don't quote me on this. I always kind of got the impression that Halo and Marathon shared some DNA. But anyways, these are 3 tracks that all have a very similar sound to them and have a Halo vibe throughout each of them, I think. And maybe that's just the cinematic quality of it all. They're all of a similar style, but because there's a 2-year difference between the first 2 songs and the third one, I think when the third one plays, you can hear that things have changed, that Nick Singer's style has improved and gotten a little bit bigger with the music. I think these tracks are just really cool and easy listening. They keep that sci-fi vibe. They have that Halo theme in there, even though they don't come from that game. They've always been tracks that when they come on, I'm like, yeah, let's settle in. So we're just gonna play all 3 tracks in a row. Just let them segue into each other and let this trilogy play in its full form. So this is the Forerunner mix, Alpha, Beta, and Gamma by Nick Singer from ocremix.org from the game Marathon. Okay, that was the Forerunner mix, Alpha, Beta, and Gamma by Nick Singer from ocremix.org from the game Marathon. All 3 tracks from Marathon, remixing different pieces. They have a very strong focus, the 3 of those. And even though I feel like the third one sounds a little bit different between the first 2, I think it's still impressive that after 2 years he was still able to keep that sound. I should have said that Faxanadu track was new to Overclocked Remix. It's one of the more recent tracks, and this one is as well. This one brand new when we picked it for this week. So this is coming from the game Deltarune, which is a 2018 game. It's a very funky piece, as you can tell by the title, Funk Buster. It is just an energetic funk piece. A little bit of Latin American music in there. It has a really fun mix of that Latin funk in there along with the electronica dance style. It's just a really interesting mix of different styles working together. Makes a really danceable piece of music. So this is Funk Buster by Kamex from ocremix.org from the game Deltarune. That was Funk Buster by Kamex from ocremix.org from the game Deltarune. I must be out of touch. I have not heard of Deltarune before. Oh wait, now that I'm looking it up, I have. It's connected to the Undertale gang, sure. Alright, I don't know what the difference is between the two, and I'm not going to try to figure it out on air, but that funk piece was pretty cool. All right, we have a mix coming from RebeccaETripp with her patented new age acoustic style. It's one of those pieces that sounds very atmospheric, sounds very ambient of the location that the mix is coming from. The original source was the Temple of Time music from The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess, which is the next Zelda game I actually have to play. I've got my GameCube copy over here. With RebeccaETripp, you always get this very woodsy vibe to it, and this one continues that. It's the woodwinds, right? They really create that foresty sound. RebeccaETripp's also working with Nirias, and it's a collaborative project, so the two of them are, working together to make this track, but I think it also falls in line a lot with the rest of RebeccaETripp's mixes that she's provided on the site. So this is Proxy Challenge by Nirias and RebeccaETripp from ocremix.org from the game The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess. That was Proxy Challenge by Nirias and RebeccaETripp from ocremix.org from the game The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess. Looking forward to it. I had a good time with Wind Waker for the most part, even though it had some issues. But again, I was playing the GameCube version, so I didn't get the HD improvements. But yeah, I'm looking forward to Twilight Princess. You turn into a wolf in that one, so at least I think you do. I hope I'm thinking the right Zelda game. As I'm recording this, I'm actually wearing my Street Fighter 2 shirt. It's great. It's Street Fighter 2, and it's got all the cast. It says select your players. It's the player select page with all the Street Fighter 2 characters. The original one. So it doesn't have the new champions. So, no Cammy or Fei Long here. But anyway, Enough about the shirt. I'm saying that because this comes from Street Fighter II, The World Warrior. This is an older track. It comes from 2001, but it's one I've listened to so many times. It's an old favorite of mine. One of the first tracks I heard on OCR. It's one that's always been a little bit sad. It's remixing the Ryu Japan theme, which is a very fast-paced and exciting track in the game. But this one, it's slowing it down, and with the synth sounds in here, it has always been very melancholy, very sad. Been this ambient piece of music that I put on as a very chill track. It paints a very nostalgic picture for me. Yeah, it's really interesting when you hear the original Japan theme from Street Fighter II, which is all action, and then you slow it down like this and stretch out that synth sound and kind of create an ocean wave. It's a really sad, lonely piece. I going to try to pronounce the title here. It's called Tatsumakisenputronic by Star Salzman from ocremix.org from the game Street Fighter II: The World Warrior.
Victory means nothing, the fight is everything.
That was Tatsumakisenputronic by Star Salzman from ocremix.org from the game Street Fighter II: The World Warrior. Yeah, that's an old one. When I made my first overclocked remix mixed CDs, I had 3 CDs and I had paid a friend to let me use his computer because he had internet and a CD burner. That's how long ago that was for me. That was one of the first tracks to put on there because I was like, this is so good. It makes me feel so sad. Back 14 and 15 was when I was getting into my nostalgic period, and the nostalgia hit me hard back then. And that track was one specifically. It was like, remember when you were 8? Remember 6 years ago? The nostalgia would say, like, yeah, it was so different. All right, well, that is the show for this week. Thank you for listening to Radio 64, Video Game Music Remix Radio. I have been your host, Eric Mickles, also known online as duskvstweak. You can find me on Twitch and YouTube, all over Twitter. If you're interested in if I have anything to say outside of this podcast, which I tend not to, you can find me at those places. Radio 64 is part of the Radio Meanwhile network. Visit radiomeanwhile.com for more information about this and other great podcasts. You can share your thoughts on this episode and request music by following the show on Facebook or Twitter at Radio64Pod. Please rate, subscribe, and share this show on Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for listening.